Hey guys, I am back with Sage at Sage News. What's up, brother?
Hey, how's it going, buddy?
We're going to talk about death fluid and the shortage thereof. And what the heck's going on with diesel?
Yeah.
Because this is going to affect everything that we're going to do this summer. And I'm planning on doing a float trip, a Thunderdome float trip in North Arkansas. And I'm calling it the Thunderdome float trip because we don't know if it's going to be $6, $7, or $8 or $9 or $10 gallon of gas diesel to pull my camper up there. And that's going to, it's going to decide whether we're going to go or not. But before we get into that, I want to thank everybody that has been, I don't want to say smart enough, but has woke up and has been able to do this, roll your Roth IRA or your 401k over into precious metals. But we're taking huge swaths out of the market. I mean, there's people doing 200,000, 80,000, 100,000, boom, just sucking that stuff up at the bottom. If you're interested in that, call that number because, man, there's a lot of people that are extremely wealthy right now, Sage, in the market. And to be able to hedge some of that with some physical precious metals, I just don't see how you can go wrong. Anyway, all right. So I've got this. It's actually a text message from my brother-in-law and his group and some other people that I respect. And this is the third time I've gotten it. I don't know if you've gotten it. It's about, do you know what death fluid is? And they go to explain it. And I want to kind of read this to you and get your take on each part of it because you've really got your thumb on the pulse of this thing. So it goes through and it says, do you know what death fluid is? It's diesel exhaust fluid. Every diesel truck that has been made since 2010 is required to use it. It's a product made of 67% urea fertilizer and 33% distilled water. Every diesel truck you see driving down the road today has to have it. The engines won't start without it. There are regulators inside the engine that mix DEF with the diesel to reduce emissions. We all agree on that, right?
Right. Correct.
All right. So right now, here's where I'm not sure that you probably will be. Right now, Russia is the largest exporter of urea by a wide margin. Qatar is second. Egypt and China are tied for third. Both Russia and China have decided to no longer export urea. On top of that, India is the largest manufacturer of urea in the world, even though they consume most of what they make. What little they would export, they no longer do. They are now stopping the exploration of any and all urea mines. Oh, no, minus a deal they cut with Sri Lanka.
Sri Lanka. Correct.
So we're on track. This is all facts.
Yeah. I actually did a video on this. So to kind of give a quick reference, the EPA forced trucks to run the DEF system, and the DEF system, it's better for better environment, cleaner air, and so on and so on. So I actually did a story a long time ago that we were getting bad DEF. They were probably diluting it more with water and less urea, and urea has a higher flash point for it to burn. Well, that's the kind of the chemistry. But what was happening is there's a sensor inside the truck that will let the truck start and run if it has it in there. If it doesn't, the truck will not run. It will downgrade itself and it won't run. So urea is a fertilizer. Okay, so a lot of countries, because of the fertilizer problems and the farm stuff, a lot of countries have said, hey, I'm not giving you my urea. You're going to have to figure it out yourself, right? Russia was a big one. Qatar, just like you said, India was. Besides Sri Lanka. Besides that, India sent them, I think it was like 65 million metric tons. They're holding back and not giving this up because they need this stuff for fertilizing their crops. So there was just a recent report from the Surface Board, basically the Surface Land Board, that the CEO of Flying J came on and basically was, questioned, and he explained.
Can I read that to you?
That's
the third paragraph of this article.
Yeah, go ahead.
Flying J is the largest service provider for trucks around the United States. I'm sure you've seen their massive gas stations when traveling around the country. Flying J gets 70% of their DEF fluid from shipments via Union Pacific Railroad. UP has single user access to fertilizer plants that urea DEF fluid comes from now. No other rail provider has access to these distribution points. This means Flying J cannot go around Union Pacific. Union Pacific is in charge for a reason I'm going to mention in a few paragraphs. Is that on par?
Correct. Yep. And there's many articles explaining this. The letter was released basically saying that, hey, you have to back down 20% of your receiving of your DEF fluids. That was from the UP. That was from the Surface Management Board committee that basically they went into a lot of that. Yep. Still on par.
All right. So Flying J provides 30% of all DEF consumed in the United States. UP has told Flying J to reduce their shipments by a whopping 50%. And if they do not comply, then they will be completely embargoed. That would, in effect, bankrupt Flying J. This means that 15% of all DEF consumed by truckers in the U.S. is no longer available.
Correct. It was actually 20%. That he might have messed up his numbers, but I think it was not 15, but 20%. So it's a little bit more. So
right.
Basically, like I said, urea is made to form DEF. Urea is a fertilizer. Lots of countries are pulling back on that. I believe we're also pulling back on that. And it's becoming an option that, do we use the urea to fertilize crops or do we use the urea to move the trucks? Now, what can happen with the trucks is the trucks can be deleted. So that system can be deleted. It's not legal right now, but it can be done. If a truck's caught being deleted, the EPA can come in and fine them hundreds of thousands of dollars, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But
I don't own one single truck or vehicle or tractor or anything that takes that crap.
Right.
I don't want anything extra.
Yeah. So what happened with that? So if you were going to choose, I would choose to use it as fertilizer rather than DEF fluid, because there's a fix for the DEF fluid. There's no fix for fertilizer, right?
Right.
So, and in my opinion, again, this is not what it's not for sure, is why they're pulling back on that. I believe is because it will be needed for crops and it will be needed for that. They're not saying that as of right now, but they are going to places like Flying J and saying, hey, you're going to have to cut back. So now the only issue is that if the EPA doesn't step up and say, hey, you guys can run your trucks, go ahead and delete that system. Take your truck to a mechanic. We're going to give you a software update. We're going to let these guys bypass that system for now. It's a state of emergency. We're fine. If they don't do that, trucks will not be able to run without it. So you're really going to see how this is going to pan out. If it's, in my opinion, if they're pulling back on that and not deleting trucks, it's a planned situation. There's no
right. So I remember back when this thing came out, nobody wanted it. We're having a lot of regen problems just in personal trucks, I'm sure on the 18-wheelers too. How costly is this to delete? What's the big deal?
Well, when it's not technically something you want to do, I believe I don't know on a personal truck. I don't know, but on a tractor trailer, it would range $1,500 to $2,000 possibly on some of per truck. When it was not supposed to be done, right? Now, prices are going to go up with supply and demand if it's allowed to be done. Let's just say, because that's just the way it works. Hey, you can't get it done. You want it? Fine. Come. So that's usually the range of deleting it. Now, the other issue is that depend on the deletion, you can't just do that to a truck. And this is all, I'm not saying for anyone to do this because it's not legal right now, but we don't know how the trucks will operate if it's just a software deletion. Like there are hardware parts in there that work properly when the system's working properly, right? There's filters and things like that. So there are some things that also have to be done mechanically to make sure that it doesn't work. Now that's going to go against what, the EPA and a lot of things like that. But without urea, I actually played, if you check out my video that I did on this, I actually played back in November that in Korea, their trucks ran out of it. and the military had to rush in and bring some in. And the trucks were going into gas stations and fuel stops, and they were only given like a 5-gallon jug of it to fill up. And, you know, trucks were lining up. I actually did a video. It was a news article from Korea and the only trucks that were allowed to use it were trucks that were picking up at the ports and so on and so on. So it became a situation in Korea that this did already happen once, that they ran out of it and trucks were running out of it and couldn't run. If it's something that happens here, we are on a much bigger scale in regards to, you know, South Korea basically running that. So it could be a problem depending on how the government handles it. Now, in my opinion, if this is a situation that other countries are holding it, they should have already made the decision to allow you to bypass that system, right? It should be. It shouldn't be done when trucks are parked. It needs to be done before we run out.
Unless you're trying to collapse the economy.
Correct.
Unless another country's calling the shots and they're selling us down the river. You know, I'm just saying. If you haven't hit the like button, please do this. That will share this message. It's like almost the most kindest thing you can do for me and Sage. And if you hit the share button, that's the trump card. That really boosts this message out and gets people on, because we're going to run out of DEF fluid. And this is going to stop trucks. And it's going to be a knee-jerk reaction, like it's always is. You know, they wait till something happens and then they, you know, come up with something to do that's probably going to be the wrong thing if I know anything about our government. So They're going to make the wrong decision first, and that's going to make things worse. And then they'll come up with whatever they have to do because people are riding in the streets. I don't know, but it seems like it's going to get a lot worse before it gets any better. And Sage, I'm going to let you go. I want to try to keep these videos short because our next video is going to be pretty in depth about diesel fuel. And I really appreciate you coming on, man.
Yeah, and absolutely. And you're right. Make sure you hit the share button. You're going to see a copy link button. Click the copy link and then do nothing with it. YouTube doesn't know if you copied it someplace or not, but definitely do that. That actually puts more of an algorithm in there. And
really?
Yeah, that'll push your video out. Yep.
Well, if you got it copied, go over to Facebook, hit it on groups and your page. And people need to know this because, man, it's, you know, and I'm bad about it too. I'm bad about remembering to hit the like button. I'm bad about remembering to say it, hit the like button. But the truth is, if we're the only people that do good, we're going to do really freaking bad. We need a bunch of people to do good that are like us. And the people that watch us are like us, you know, and so that's why it's so important to hit that, you know, go through the motions, hit the like, go share it, copy that, do all of it, because it will help this get out and we can all be prepared. The people we are like will be prepared, and we can help more people, because we're not going to be able to help that many people. It's just a few of us that do good.
Absolutely.
Thanks, brother. I'll catch you in the next one. Thanks, guys, for watching. Later.
Anytime.